Good morning. We'll call this Personnel Ways and Means Committee meeting to order. First order of business is approval of minutes.
I'll move.
Support. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Next, public comment on any agenda item. Is there any public comment on any agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to board appointments. We have in front of us a list of board appointments for the 9/11 District Board, Lieutenant Brett Bryce from the Michigan State Police, Wellwise Services, Amory Ream Taylor and Jim Van Doren, and for the jury board, Carol Canablo. Do we need a motion to send this forward? These recommendations, I think we do.
I'll make a motion to send those forward.
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Matter carries. Next, we have employment changes. There are the changes in front of us. Any discussion, any questions on these issues? Okay, thank you. Now we'll go down to employee anniversaries. And again, we see that Judge Shadler has been with us for 42 years, a number of folks between 30 and 40 years, and then some, I think at the bottom, as little as 1 or 2. So again, we bring this forward to recognize people's commitment to our county and to thank them for their service. Thank you for that. We have one other item of personnel business, a tuition reimbursement. I don't know if there's any questions on that before I don't know if we need to read the whole thing into the record or not, but it is a policy. We have an established policy of providing tuition reimbursement for our employees depending on various criteria. And we have one in front of us this morning. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Matter carries. Thank you. Administrator Murphy, now I will turn this over to you for the finance reports.
All right, as we get started, we'll be looking at the general fund income statement. Keep in mind that this report was run March 24. So obviously there's been a few changes since then. As we look at the revenue on the first page, I do want to point out just a couple things. In the column that says year-to-date actual amounts, you will see there's about 3 areas that have parentheses. These are areas that is grant funds that are still owed to the county for the 2024 year. So we need to book those back into 2024 as soon as they come in. So we are still making adjustments to the finance statement for the end of the calendar year or end of our budget year. But we are wrapping those up fairly quickly. So to date, we have revenues currently in the amount of $3.3 million, which is about 8% of the budgeted revenues that we have calculated. On the expense side, including the transfers out to the various departments, we have expense totals year to date of $8.3 million, which is about 20% of our expenses to budget. As we move on to the fund equity changes report, this report also was run as of March 24th. As I indicated, your general fund currently year to date shows revenues of $3.3 million and expenditures of $8.3 million. As we continue on, your special revenue funds show current year-to-date revenue of $4.4 million with year-to-date expenses of $8.7 million. Your debt service fund shows revenues of $866,000 with no year-to-date expenditures. The capital projects fund has $894,000 in revenue compared to $508,000 in expenditures. Your capital project fund special assessment districts have revenues of $364,000 in comparison to $110,000 in expenditures. Your enterprise funds are seeing revenues year to date of just over $6 million in comparison to expenditures of 5.4 million. And your internal service funds are showing revenues of 78,000 with expenditures of 82,000. In totality, for all of the funds that we were just talking about, we have revenues of 16 million and expenditures of 24 million. If you have any questions, I will try to answer those.
Any questions, comments? Thank you again for this monitor, particularly for this report. It's very nice to be able to read the numbers up here. Thank you for that. Now, we also have the matter of some budget adjustments in front of us. Again, I would turn that over to Administrator Murphy.
As advised in the past, we want to bring budget adjustments to you a little bit more regularly. And since we're wrapping up the audit, we've got some changes that have come through as a result of some grants, and we wanted to bring those to your attention. More specifically, there'll be some in general fund with our Veterans Affairs Office, as well as a number of grants that are non-general funds. And at this point, in order to go through them, I'd like to introduce you to Finance Director Dan Zamolzak, and he'll go over those budget adjustments with you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. As was mentioned just a couple moments ago, these budget amendments relate to our grants. And for the most part, our grants we're pretty much almost 8 months into the grant program. Their timing goes from October to September. So we want to get these budget adjustments in early. And also we want to, as was mentioned, we want to bring these in a little bit more frequently so we're not inundating you in September, October with our end of the year adjustments. So the first amendment, as was mentioned, is the Veterans Affairs budget. And through basically an accounting error at the state level, all VA grants around the state were cut. And so ours was also cut to the tune of about $37,500. And as I go through this report, we're actually focusing on that middle column, which is where the changes are. And so the grant was reduced $37,500. Fortunately, we were able to absorb some of that lost revenue through the general fund without increasing that general fund budget. And then the balance of that was going to be picked up through the Veterans Relief Fund 293 by using some of their excess, some of their fund equity to basically keep that program as operable as it had been before that grant. On the next page, Fund 214 and 218, the Sobriety Court and the Adult Treatment Court. Those are, for those of you who don't know what the MDCGP means, it's the Michigan Drug Court Grant Program. 214 and 218 both relate to the drug courts, different courts, but still the drug programs. And those budgets were increased slightly from our initial estimates. So you see just a small increase there. And all these grants that we're talking about now after the VA are basically just adjustments to get us to the actual amounts that were projected originally against the final budget. The 217 grant, which is the grant in the middle of this page here, is the Michigan Mental Health Court Grant Program. And that's a slight decrease in revenue, $20,850. And again, there you can see the line items that we're projecting to be affected by those grant reductions. On the next page, we can go to the Adult Treatment Court, and a small adjustment there downward again of $6,044 with the appropriate reductions on the expenditure side, 3 line items there. The Adult Treatment Court also had another increase in the Veterans Treatment Court. That was a slight increase of $1,900. And then the Public Defender Grant, which is at the bottom of the page, that was an adjustment for us to basically include that the indirect costs, which we had not been claiming in the past, as well as making some adjustments for the attorney fees. The state looked at some historical costs in that area and determined that it would be appropriate to reduce the amount because we were never reaching those levels as it was. The final page, Fund 254, the survey and remonumentation grant increased slightly. And then the land bank, you can see we received $135,000 in state funds that were not originally budgeted. And that has the impact of basically reducing our use of the budgeted fund reserve of that fund. So before I wrap up and take any questions, I did want to take a moment to thank Tracy Stace, our budget analyst, who I don't know if it was planned or knowingly took this week off for a vacation, but a lot of her efforts and her work is basically what you're seeing here on the screen today. So are there any questions?
Administrator Murphy?
Not a question, but more of a comment. The very first budget adjustment that we talked about was regarding Veterans Affairs Office. And you heard Mr. Zamolzak indicate that through an error at the state, these grants have to be reduced. Just to go into a little bit more detail there, the state set aside a budget of X number of dollars because they were accustomed to about 30 counties applying for these funds. This year, about 70 some counties applied for the funds, and so they had to decrease the funding to the counties in order to give money to the counties that had applied. My understanding is, though, that because of that reduction, a number of counties are now having to reduce their services to the veterans that were dependent upon that funding. And so the state is looking for funding to be able to make each of the counties whole in their grant applications to be able to move them back to providing the services that they originally had planned on through that grant application. So I just wanted to explain that a little bit more.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
In light of this, I would entertain a motion to recommend approval of these budget adjustments as presented.
So moved.
Support. Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. In a similar vein, we now have a proposed budget calendar. And again, I would ask Administrator Murphy to bring us up to speed on that.
Every year as we enter the budget cycle, we would provide you with what we're proposing as the budget calendar. Last year was the first year that we proposed adopting the budget earlier than we ever had before. And we were able, through thanks to the team that we have, meet that target. And so we are hoping to do the same thing this year. So you will see that the plan will be to present the budget in September to the Ways and Means Committee with the adoption at the Board of Commissioners meeting on October 8th. There are several line items in here which show you some of the meetings that we will be having internally as we go through the entire budget process. So what we're looking for today is just for you to approve the 2026 budget calendar.
Support.
And moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next, we have the matter of the authority for the delinquent property tax revolving fund. Administrator Murphy, do you have any other comments on this?
Just for our newer commissioners, this is something that we do on an annual basis. We allow the treasurer the potential to borrow a set amount of funds from the delinquent tax revolving fund in order to make the local municipalities whole as we take on all of those delinquent taxes on their behalf. Last year, the resolution was for, I believe it was $1.5 million. This year, we've decreased that to $750,000. We do believe that she's probably going to have the funding necessarily without having to borrow against this, but in order to make sure that we do have a cushion to allow her to do that, the recommendation is to authorize an amount not to exceed $750,000.
Is there a motion to that effect? Is
I'll make the motion to accept this.
there a second?
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this matter? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we have the 2025 equalization report before us. Kim, is there any comment you'd want to offer on this?
I would like to introduce to you the Equalization Director, Michelle DeLong, and she will provide an update on what that report is about.
Morning.
Good morning.
In your packet is the equalization report, and where we've analyzed and reviewed the assessment rolls as certified and approved by the local townships, their board of review. Again, this year, the ratios between the 49 and 50 have been achieved, and so it's recommended to be assessed as equalized with no factors. We've done the appraisal studies in ag, commercial, and industrial for all the local units. And then we've done sales study for our residential properties as well as the commercial for City of Adrian, because they have enough sales. We have a equalized value of $6,672,375,192, which is an increase of 4.53 of the equalized value of last year, with a 4.13% increase in taxable value. That's all I have. If there's any questions.
Any questions, anybody? Okay, thank you so much. Entertain a motion to approve the 2025 equalization report.
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Next in front of us, we have the approval of the remon and monumentation contracts. Where there's a request to approve the agreement with Brian D. Fish and the Manick and Smith Group. Is there a motion to that effect?
So. Or.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this issue? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And in a similar vein, we are being asked to approve a resolution appointing these folks to the 2025 peer group, again, around the monumentation and remonumentation process. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on this issue? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Matter carries. And finally, is there any other ways and means business before I move on? Oh, no, sorry, we got one more item. Forgive me. I even numbered them. Geez. We have in front of us a committee referral, Core Technologies. Kim, did you need to offer any comment on this before we act?
All I would like to say is this is a contract that the sheriff works with on an annual basis. The only reason it's before you is they usually have an annual contract, and they were seeing that there were price increases of about 10% on an annual basis. So in an effort to see if there was any way to reduce cost, the sheriff's staff did reach out to the company to say, what else can we do? What they proposed was a 5-year contract with a 5% renewal for each of those years. So basically the proposal is to allow them to approve a 5-year renewal agreement with Core Technologies with an annual cost savings of 5%.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Support.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Is there any other ways and means business? Hearing none, we will move on to an item for the consent agenda. This is County Government Month. In the interest of time tomorrow, I will read this resolution today. Whereas the nation's 3,069 counties serving 330 million Americans provide essential services to create healthy, safe, and vibrant communities. And whereas counties fulfill a vast range of responsibilities and deliver services that touch nearly every aspect of our residents' lives. And whereas Lenawee County and all counties take pride in our responsibility to protect and enhance the health, well-being, and safety of our residents in efficient and cost-effective ways. And whereas each year since 1991, the National Association of Counties has encouraged counties across the country to elevate awareness of county responsibilities, programs, and services. And whereas from public health and safety to criminal justice, from services for seniors and veterans to recycling and parks, your county government is committed to building a brighter future and serving Lenawee to create a better tomorrow. And now therefore be it proclaimed that the Lenawee County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim April 2025 as National County Government Month and encourage all county officials, employees, schools, and residents to become more familiar with and participate in county government activities. This will be on our consent agenda for tomorrow. Any discussion or comments? Okay, we will then move forward to public comment. Is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, is there any commissioner comment? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved.
Support.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed.